Hi, I'm Shiv.
And I'm Chitra.
We are the co hosts of this show, Software People Stories.
We're happy to bring you stories of people associated with software as makers or consumers.
In every episode, we talk to people on their own personal and professional journeys.
Their interests and approach to work and life in a free flowing conversational format. We hope that you will be able to draw your inspiration from their experiences and insights.
These podcasts are made possible by PM Power Consulting, who have helped individuals, teams, and organizations on their delivery excellence journeys.
Our guest today on the Software People Stories is Veena Ramagoplan. She's had perhaps a unique precedence to her career in the software world when she embarked on a road less traveled, which began in a place as far away from a computer as one might imagine. Veena belongs to the first batch of women officers in the Indian Navy, where she learned lessons in people management very early on and on how to carry your belief and values when the eyes of a country were on her, to how she became head of quality and business excellence during her tenure at Philips, and how she has thrived on taking up challenges while enabling transformations, transitions, and other initiatives. Veena also shares her reasons for wanting to give back to people. So listen on. So, hi, Veena. Good afternoon and welcome to the Software People Stories. It's lovely to have you here. I've been looking forward to our conversation.
Good afternoon, Chitra. Same here. It's been lovely being here, and I'm sure it's going to be a great experience.
Definitely. I can already see a lot of questions coming to my mind. So, we ask our guests to start by introducing themselves to our listeners. So, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, so I'm Veena Ramagopalan. You can call me Veena in short. I normally say I have, in fact, my son gave me this adjective, that you're versatile, Veena. So I have a versatile experience of around probably more than 2 decades of experience, which is a mix of corporate and defense. And I started my career very differently, unlike many women in our country, probably. I'm from the first batch of women officers in the Indian Navy. Did a small short stint, around 7 years. And then, of course, the corporate bug bit me as well. Had a very long tenure in corporate, and predominantly it's been in with Philips. Had a fantastic journey there. Did multiple roles. In fact, I always say I had, for me, the key takeaway has been, every year has been a new learning. And then, of course, my third innings at the moment, I'm on my own. I'm one of the co-founder and director in Inroads leadership development. And if I look back and connect the dots, it's more in terms of, what made me to transition to what I'm doing at the moment is I've always enjoyed being with people and being in front of the audience, uh, you know, and I also realize that it's time for me to give back. And one thing which has always bothered me when I have been in my career is that there are always certain fears, doubts, which holds people back. And when you start interacting with people is where you realize that they have immense potential, but there's something which holds them back. And that's where I love to be around and be probably with whatever little experience, and I can add value to them in their life, give them back with my experience in terms of coaching, mentoring, and some amount of consulting. So that's in short related to professional front. I'm married. I have two grown-up boys. Of course, they're also pretty much on their own at the moment. So that's it.
Truly versatile, I'd say. What was your life in those 7 years with the Navy, what were some of the things that you found challenging? What did you do to overcome those?
So, in fact, I always say, my Veena, who was probably a version before joining Navy, and Veena after joining Navy is very different. Yeah, I mean, it was a complete transformational for me as a person. It led me to do a lot of things which possibly in my life I wouldn't even have thought that I could do. Yeah, so it possibly helped me to uncover all my fears, let me out of my comfort zone, put me in spots where I wouldn't even have thought that I could have done it. Challenges, if you see, there were, I think, right from the day one when I stepped in to where I left. I think the entire journey of my 7 years has been fantastic. And I think that foundation has been great for me. And probably I always tell people, if I have to narrate something about my life to my grandchildren, it'll be this part of my life which I'll go back and narrate to them in terms of the stories which I have to tell them. So there's so many aspects probably pushed me out mentally, physically, all the aspects where you put in a environment which is completely male dominated, and especially being from the first batch, there were all eyes on us. I also felt that people watched us with probably, big lens in their hands, always looking at, when will the person fail or fall. And that is where, you need to have immense strength within you to be there and sustain yourself. And I think at the end of the day, what helped me to sustain is believing in yourself, staying grounded to the value system where you're coming from, and believing that women is no lesser than anybody else. And she can actually achieve all that what. So there were a lot of moments where we were challenged whether why women, is she capable, and generally being, at least in the armed forces initially, since they had never seen women, it was also always perceived that it's women is not someone who can walk shoulder to shoulder with them. But when things started happening and when we started excelling and probably equal to what they were doing, so there were a lot of eyebrows raised, and probably even if we got it over our merit, there were always a lot of biases and stereotypes, just discussions around. And that's where at every moment you had to prove yourself to be there. And I think that laid a very fundamental foundation for me, and a lot of fears being removed. And I think it's all about being comfortable with the uncomfortable. That is probably what I learned in that phase of my life.
Nice. Very, very interesting. What are a few instances that you can share with us from there? For example, what would you care to share in terms of how someone can overcome their fears? What was a moment like that for you?
There are many moments, but probably one moment which comes to my mind when you're asking this question is probably when after my training period, I was posted in a shore establishment in Gujarat, in Jamnagar. At a very young age, probably, the armed forces also exposes you to, all the aspects of people management and leadership at a very young age, and the responsibilities come to you at a very young age. So I was probably 22, 21, 22. And that is where, I was the divisional officer for very young boys. So basically, I was posted my first appointment was in a place where it was a training establishment where the artificers or the sailors, you say, who are in the technical cadre who get trained out there. So, and these artificers are actually, they're all, 12th pass, and they come there for their training. So I was made the divisional officer where I had these sailors, around 40 to 50 of them I had to manage. And then there were a lot of course, my peer officers as well who were like me, who were the male counterparts of me, who were like me, the division officer. we had to take them on as part of their training, take them on a trek, which was around 250-kilometer walk.
Wow.
And I still, yeah, and I still remember when, so normally, in these kind of things which happen, so there was a flag off which happened, where we were, my commanding officer and my senior officers saw us, at the gate and, told us. And there were many, I could see here the side comments which were coming from some of my peer officers and also the very junior officers, because this particular establishment was also a training establishment for the technical training officers. So I could hear those side comments, and in fact, one of the senior officer came to me and he said, Veena, just feel free, whenever, you want to come back, just let us know, just, and we'll send the helicopter, because we were going to very remote places. So that remark actually, of course, I didn't give back at that moment, vocally. But then I realized that, okay, this is what, they think that I can do. And each officer had some sailors, the senior sailors who were there for us as assistant to support, the boys who were under us. So we started the trek, and believe me, it was like around 7 to 8 days of trek. Within one day, my assistant sailor, he could not manage to, because it was peak summer, and he could not manage to continue. So he headed back to the base. And I had a lot of blisters and, on my legs, and because it was all walking all through the day. But then I still continued and sustained. And in the night, since I was only women and, we were around, the entire team was around 200 people. These boys also used to expect, okay, we all had carried, food, which was like those packaged food and all that stuff. And, so we used to cook and all that. So being a woman, so they also said, okay, wow, now let's all cook. So I used to take the lead in that as well. So, and then it was like, and by the end of 7th day, believe me, all the sailors and even the villages when we crossed, I still remember the women who were there and where we stayed in those village panchayats and all those places. All the women out there in the village, they were saying, why are you, dragging this girl, poor girl, and making her walk, you can take a bus from here and you can do this and all that. But then and I realized that, when these villages were also watching me, they could see that, that all that, in spite of all the pain, we were continuing and sustaining. And when I came back, and the same guys who had all those doubts in their mind and, the side comments which they made, in fact, they came and shook hands. They said, Veena, this is unbelievable. In fact, we thought you would just be back the next day itself. And when I'm narrating this incident, it's all about, at the end of the day, it's believing in yourself. Yeah, you will always have those biases and stereotypes. Okay, this is an incident which has happened in the armed force for me, but probably, very similar things happen in the corporate where, when a challenging assignment is there in front of you, most of the time, they always look at even before they give it to women, they see you with this, suspicious lens, whether she can deliver, whether she can do. But I think at the end of the day, it's not about, how do you really respond? Even if someone is giving you, it's all about, it's through action you need to respond back to get these biases ironed out. And that has really helped. So I always believe that, you need to gain respect through your actions. There are always biases around you, stereotypes around you. But then it's all about through actions is where you can make a place for yourself wherever you are and make your presence out there. And this is one instant which I thought, I should narrate.
Oh, that's definitely some trek of endurance, Veena, going to the sun and back, I'd say, for sure.
Yeah, so one more thing which is just coming to my mind, as you're saying, which I thought will probably help many girls. So when I joined, again, the first training establishment, we were also, since we were from the first batch, there was a lot of eyes on us and a lot of media attention. All that was there. Of course, we also came in Limca book of records. And then, so all of us, my boss, I still remember, he used to be very good in sailing and all that stuff, which was in addition to your core work. He used to do this additionally. And I remember one of my colleague making that remark that, Veena, if you come over there at 4 o'clock to that sailing club, when you come there, you're going to attract a lot of people. So I was like, there'll be more people than will come and join this club. So I was like, so is it that, just by me being a woman and being there, a young officer standing there, if that is what it is? And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be there. And that's one thing, which I learned, that, there might be people who might push you and, with some side remarks. But how do you shut them off is also being very assertive and not getting emotional. So I just said, no, I'm sorry, whatever that person's name was, that I'm not going to be there. Yeah, if so, of course, they were really annoyed that I'm refusing to come. So I said, yeah, if it's related to it and to work, and you feel that I've not done it, you can always make noise about it. But if it is something which is over and above this, and if you think that I need to be there because I am from this gender, then I'm sorry, I'm not there. So I think you need to sometimes put your foot down, and that's very, very important. I think I can narrate a lot of these instances, which also I've heard from in corporate as well, who come and narrate, and then they get emotional, and probably, shedding tears don't help, that somebody has made such remarks like that. I think you need to put your foot down and probably, and very assertively say if you don't like some remarks.
Oh, certainly. I mean, I think it's these kind of experiences that actually, like you said, teach us how to deal with people who try, or forces that try and push you all over.
Yeah, and they also probably are trying to see as to how strong are you from within. And that's where it's very, very important for you to hold yourself together and hold your ground. That's very, very important.
Very, very nicely said, Veena. Thank you so much. So, what was your transition like from a command and control like environment within the Navy to a more chaotic environment in the corporate world?
Yeah, so even though they say command and control, probably I think even when I was part of the Navy, at least in terms of the teams which I have handled and the environment which I was there, I always still believed in okay, so you need to have a good balance of that command and control, and also being empathetic to people, and that had helped me in many ways, even in my Navy days, to get work done. So not that you being over friendly, but because of that environment being very hierarchical in nature. But it's very important to be empathetic about the people who are there with you, and how do you deal with that, and always have listening ears to your people, and that's always helped me. Okay, even if someone has a pushback, or they have a conflict, hear them out instead of just pushing your ideas. And that helped me, I think. That's number one in terms of the people aspect, which helped me in transition. Number two, what helped me is probably the discipline aspect of life in general. And I guess it helped me in better planning. And also the third thing which helped me is, the environment in at least in the Navy puts you that you are an engineer. Okay, you're there and you're handling certain things, but you can also do various odd jobs which you probably wouldn't even have thought that you can do. So I managed finances, I managed large teams. So it's like, you're exposed to various aspects, and the crux of it is that you need to be very adaptable and flexible. And that's why, they also let you change your jobs within every year. Literally, you're doing something totally new. And that helped me. That this was another third, basically the aspect also which helped me to transition in the corporate. So these were a few things which helped me to blend in corporate.
Very interesting and very nice, Veena. How do you get developers to be as disciplined as, let's say, the Navy requires you to be?
So I think the discipline per se, when you say, I think probably when I connected, it also led me to probably in the fag end of my Navy, I got into the domain of, streamlining the processes. Those days it was the ISO certification world. So I was in one of the core team member in the Navy, and that also helped me in that transition in the corporate. And I realized that from a developer's point of view, of course, what helped me is to get the discipline out of them is more through through processes, and probably, telling them in terms of what are the benefits of, standardized way of working. And, if there is a code being developed, how important it is to have those coding guidelines being followed, code checks being followed, reviews being done, testing being done, and all those aspects. Because as a fresher engineer, when they come, they think that the only aspect of coding is just to code. But they forget that you're working in a team and your code is probably being used by others. The discipline aspect of probably the Navy was regulated by the processes which I was trying to put around while managing the developers.
So, in your role as a QA person, what do you think stressed you the most?
I think I wouldn't say just the QA. I guess in many aspects, what stresses me always the most is the follow-ups. Because sometimes I feel, I always used to tell that as a quality head as well, that quality is not, the quality manager's responsibility alone. Quality is actually part and parcel of each and every person who's there in the team or in the organization as a whole. Yeah, everyone contributes to that. And that self-discipline is important. And, all these processes are actually not necessary at all if you have that self-discipline. And, when it's as simple as when you're sending an email, I realize that a lot of people just don't even have that habit of reading the mail as to what have they written, and they just dish out that mail out. So, and you want someone else to actually check that for you. And, so that's something which has always irritated me, okay, why do you need so much of follow-up even for, the things which needs to come as part of you itself. So that is one thing which is stressed out. Otherwise, I think stress per se, so I think it's all more about, how do you position quality assurance part of it. So for me, what has worked is, I've never believed in, very bookish, knowledge of that. It's all about, it's not that one size fits all. And it can't be like you enforce it. It's a collaborative approach in terms of, how you get things done and, the quality. So this whole thing of, it's you. So I used to always take their inputs as well as to how can we make this better. What do you think that we should do? Even when it comes to a piece of code, before it goes to the customer, what are the few things which we need to do? And involve them in terms of documenting all those aspects and then make them do that. So that actually helped me in a lot way, streamlining a lot of things. So that's where, in at least in the circle of friends of mine or my peers, they normally you'll find the quality is or the enabling functions are seen as a threat. But whereas I always had an environment where they involved me and took my inputs, took my ideas as well, where it was more of a team-driven approach rather than, where it is you're pushing your stuff, probably through books and policies and processes. So that was never my approach.
So you said that, early on as part of your introduction that you love doing new things and, learning new things all the time. So what were some of the other roles that you played as part of your corporate career?
I've always tried to pick up roles or positions where, probably I'm involved in setting up things and where there's nothing at all. So that's how I have enjoyed it. That's what, gives me more energy and, more kick. And where things have already, once I bring it to a steady state, I've gone to my seniors and I've said, look, it's not challenging enough for me. And I need to do something, new. So this has also helped me a lot in terms of my career shifts and moments where more than, the organization pushing it on me in terms of these transitions. Lot of times, I have myself have taken that initiative and told that, look, I think what I'm doing is not challenging enough. Give me something totally new. So I've always moved into businesses where things were not there and we're setting up things for them. So of course, quality was my probably the primary role per se, but in addition, I've done a lot of change. I've been involved in a lot of change and transformational projects, large projects, program managed that. Been a lot of involved in a lot of business excellence initiatives where you have to you're really there's nothing and you're trying to put things together and then getting it to a steady state. And every year probably you're learning new things. For me, all these terminologies, when you say IT, so I remember one of the business when we were there, so they said, PMP is a must. So okay, then I did all the things learning related to that. And then went to another business, then they said Prince too. I said, okay, let me understand what it is. So these were the new things, which also, of course, I kept learning, but I realized that all of it is, the philosophy remains the same. The interesting part was when I was in Philips, I was initially in the business domain and then I moved to IT. And why I moved to IT was again my own choice, because I realized that I've seen all the aspects of the business side of Philips in the R&D side. And then I said, okay, the IT was being set up at that point of time in Philips. And I said, okay, can I take this move? So when I moved there, and I remember my boss, he said, do you know SAP? So I said, I don't know. I've heard about it, but I've never used it. At that moment, we were only using more of SAP applications. And then, but I've never, felt overwhelmed by the new technology or, the new stuff. Because for me, it's, if you have the right will and believe in yourself, and I'm sure all of these things is easily, you get it and you learn quickly. So I said, okay, fine, let me figure it out, what it is. If you think that, to perform this role, what I've taken up, because I joined there as a business excellence head. Look, if SAP is a must, then let me figure it out. So within a week, what I did was I spoke to one of my colleagues who was a SAP, expert. And I said, now you please explain to me what it is and what is this application and what does it do. And so she, explained to me an entire length and breadth of that. And then but I realized it's all about, picking up things. And a lot of times, we tend to expect that, things will come on your platter. But I think you need to, I always say, job description just is one aspect of your role or the job, but don't curtail yourself with that boundary which is being described there. So if you expand beyond that, I think every organization enables you to do that. And that is how I've viewed always an opportunity or any of the role which I've been in my career. And that has helped me also because people also view you in a very different way because they see, okay, there's someone who's, I think in today's context, you need people who are more adaptable, flexible, and are willing to learn things. Yeah, of course, you'll keep seeing that every day or every probably, couple of weeks down the line, you'll keep hearing new technology, new set of terminologies being thrown over you. But then how easily are you able to adapt to that and also keep up to, to that by continuously, reading and learning and also probably talking and seeking help. A lot of times, we don't even seek help. And I used to be very open. If I didn't know, I used to always say, can you help me out? I need to know what it is. And how a senior you are, it doesn't matter. You can always go to a very junior most, developer sitting out there and understanding. That's how I have always, learned a lot.
Nice, Veena. Nice. Thank you. You said you were part of a lot of transitions. So what are some of the cultural aspects of, let's say, a global process transformation or a transition from one way of working to another, let's say in the context of business excellence? What are some of those dynamics there? And what is it that you would like to share with our listeners in terms of learnings or takeaways from such experiences?
For me, one great learning is, of course, in the organization where I was. So when we were working with the global part of our organization, and we started transitioning a lot of stuff to India. I guess, unlike, like any other probably, the transitions which the other organizations also or the other teams would have faced, a doubt in the global organization's mind, whether the India team can do it, can perform. So in fact, that was one thing also which I used to, like every time you are setting up a new business in the India side, you have to prove yourself again. All that credentials of your past doesn't really work. So you need to start all over again and build that trust with your stakeholders. So one thing which has helped me in all of this, I always say, it's not about stakeholder management. In fact, I say it's about stakeholder engagement, and that has really helped me a lot. In the global context, how do you really engage them, understand their expectation, and then also speak up when you need to. That's very, very important, because a lot of times they might also push a lot of things and assume a lot of things. But how do you make it as a leader or as a manager crystal clear to them as to what are your capabilities and what do you bring to the table, and what does your team bring to the table? Build that confidence in them that the team out here can actually do things and deliver it for you. In fact, one instance was, as part of my business excellence head, I had to collect the feedback from the global organization for the team sitting out here. And believe me, the typical biases and the stereotypes existed when I went there. I don't want to name the country, but when I went there and I interviewed all the senior stakeholders who were engaging our organization here in India. And the typical biases and stereotypes, your guys out there, in India don't know how to speak on phone and this, that. But then at the end of it, I didn't really get alarmed or, all of it. I gathered all those inputs together. And then I sat with my management team and then I said, okay, I think what's missing is probably the cultural. I think our guys out here really don't understand the culture, and they don't understand our culture. In terms of problem, and some of the instances which they quoted were more in terms of the email writing, email communication, or it could be on the one of the chat application which we used to use and the way we used to communicate with the people out there. More than even the domain or those issues, I realized the communication issues were biggest issues which were found in we engaging our stakeholders globally. And then we put up cross-cultural training where we train them about how we the cultural aspect of India, and then we got trained about that country, and things got much smoother in terms of the understanding, and and also being very transparent to them in terms of what you're delivering, and continuously updating them in terms of what you're doing. And that's very, very important. A lot of times what we do is we run big programs and large projects. We will of course have those progress review reports. We'll show everything green till the end, but on the day of the release you're saying things are going bad. And that's where you're that all the trust which you have built is all goes away, because they lose the confidence whether you're really so it's very important to be very open and transparent about your challenges, the risks, what you're facing. And it's not just about putting the problem out there to them. It's also about what are you doing about that problem and how are you managing that problem. And that's actually helped me, at least with the global stakeholders.
I'm sure those cross-cultural trainings would have thrown up a lot of lighter moments that would have helped in tearing down some of the perceptions and barriers?
Yes. So in fact, in one of the things which they like people, at least in the culture, where you need to be, they really tell things on the face. That's how they are. Then I realized, yeah, so that's what we need to actually educate the people. If there is something, tell it upfront. So it's all about making it very clear to them. Probably sometimes be blunt as well. So that culture was very. They were very blunt, and so they don't mince words. Whereas we tend to sometimes mince words and be very very diplomatic in handling things. There. I think I mean, at least what stood out for me is sometimes you need to be assertive and be blunt, and it's okay. And they like that actually, rather than hiding things and then giving them a surprise later on.
Yeah, I guess it's sometimes just nice to be who you are.
Be very authentic of to yourself. That's very very important. You're right.
Yeah. You said you headed down the path of doing something with the perspective of giving back. Where did that come from?
So where did it come from is it's again related to me managing people, interacting with people, and that's where I felt that I mean, at least a lot of people come from. I mean, I always felt that I'm very blessed in that sense. A lot of people come from very humble families in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and they come and work in big cities like this. And I felt that some of the struggles they've had, it's not that they lack in capability or competence or things like that. What they need help is more in terms of polishing their communication, removing their fears. Because I used to realize that that guy will be very good technically, guy or a girl will be very good technically. When it comes to probably as simple as in the conference calls, where you're sitting with a very senior stakeholder on the other side, it's just because of the language barrier what you have, you're not able to express yourself, or probably you lacking that confidence. You're not able to express yourself and assert yourself in terms of what you bring to the table. So this is something which is, of course, I used to always pull my team a lot, even when I was in the corporate, where we used to finish a conference call and then we come out and then say, Veena, we can easily do it. It's nothing big. So then why didn't you not state it, in as many words in the call? So somewhere, I felt that cultural barriers are also blocking a lot of people. We because of we always say give respect to the elders. So that's the value system we live in. We've been taught. So typically, when moment you are talking to a very senior person, and if it's a global stakeholders, so the natural tendency I've found in people is that they don't express themselves freely in terms of what they want to say, and that also blocks or causes barrier in terms of their growth. So from what I felt is that more than the technology or the technical aspects, these are the smaller, the softer aspects which is blocking or people's growth. That's number one. And number two, what I'm doing today is, in my journey, I realized, of course, starting from my, the Navy, the defense journey, as well as the corporate, I always found when I used to sit, at the table, there were very few women I could see, around me. And in fact, when my last role, when I was in the global management team, it was just me and another woman from US. And I felt, in fact, it is, of course, it's not just a problem in India alone. It's actually a global problem. I knew that there were very many women who were very capable, could not continue for various reasons. And that's where I felt that, I could, give my experience and help such women, to sustain. And not that, once they made a choice in terms of taking a break, that they're happy. But because many of them, when I used to meet them, they used to be very frustrated also in terms of, the break which they have taken. Because probably they were forced, or the situation forced them to take that break. So that's where I realized that, maybe, all those smaller tips which I can share in terms of, my own journey and the experience as to how it helped me to sustain and have a career. And of course, managing your family. how is it that I can be of help to, these women who want to have an aspiring career as well. So these were the two things actually relating to people which helped me to do what I'm doing today.
That's really nice to know, Veena, and certainly looking forward to more such enabling stories in further conversations that we'll have, I'm sure. So, is there something that you would like to leave our listeners with?
There's nothing which is impossible in anybody's life. At the end of the day, we need to reflect on ourselves. Few things which enables you to cross any of the barriers which come in front of you is possibly, believing in yourself, having that confidence that even if there is a setback, how do you really overcome that? It's that resilience what you can have in terms of pushing yourself back, even if it puts you at a place where, it pulls you down. But how you can do that self-talk within yourself and then say, this is not going to stop me, and, I can get over that. So it's all about believing in yourself, having that self-confidence. And lastly, it's at the end of the day, it's all about your positive frame of mind and the overall mindset and the attitude, which probably cannot shake any person. So I think these are a few things which I would like to leave. And life is, one needs to also enjoy. A lot of times I also see that many of the professional people overwhelmed with what's there in front, balancing, here I wouldn't call, say it's gender specific, balancing their life. And I think it's at the end of the day, it's about, how do you view this entire thing? And if you keep yourself happy is where you're going to keep your, people around you happy. So one needs to spend time, with themselves. That's very, very important. Have that me time. So you need to have that me time always. Only then you can actually give time to others.
That's so true. I mean, so many messages that I'm also taking away, especially with, you be happy and then others around you will also be happy. I'm certainly looking forward to more such conversations with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Chitra.
If you like the show and would like to share your experiences with the community or know someone else who might want to do that, please get in touch with us at podcast@pm-powerconsulting.com. That is podcast@pm-powerconsulting.com.
Please rate the show on Podchaser, Stitcher, iTunes, or any other podcast client that you find us on. Please also share our episodes with your friends and others in your network. If you or anyone you know would like to be featured on our show, do write to us at this email address: podcast@pm-powerconsulting.com.